It's now time to talk about how to use artificial intelligence to power team and customer communication. So we're going to walk into the world of collaboration, team effectiveness, and we're going to have the CEO from 4PSA to come and speak to us. And we're going to hear about the market opportunity. According to Juniper Research in 2016, the over-the-top, the OTT voice and text messaging alternatives displace more than $84 billion worldwide. So the telcos, the traditional telcos, are the big losers in this transformation. In 2017, another 23% of erosion will happen, representing nearly $104 billion of displaced revenue if you're a telco. So if we aren't a telco and we flip over the other side, what is the size of that opportunity? So I'd like to ask Bogdan Carstoiu to come and speak to us. He is a serial entrepreneur with vast engineering experience. He's the founder and CEO of 4PSA, a company building cloud unified communications. Bogdan, please come and join us on stage. A warm WHD.global welcome for Bogdan.
Thank you very much. Hello. I think it is going to be a difficult presentation after you've heard so many bits and bytes. But it's strictly related because I'm talking about artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence needs data. Artificial intelligence, it's kind of an interesting subject lately. You most likely read a lot of articles every day about it. It's not only about artificial intelligence, which is interesting, but also everything which is related to the subject, because artificial intelligence must be used in some way or another. I'll start with a question. Who really loves online ads? Okay. What a surprise. Well, artificial intelligence has been used for a long time in order to predict the user behavior. It's an interesting field because there are a lot of money there. If you, as a company, are able to show the most relevant ad, most likely someone is going to click on it. And if it's clicking on it, most likely it's going to buy, which is interesting, of course. But sometimes, such kind of stuff is not very smart. You've noticed that you visit a website by mistake, and for the next 60 days, you'll be able to see a lot of ads related, like for shoes. You actually bought shoes, but you're going to see a lot of. And shoes is actually good if you're not seeing wedding stuff, or because every thinking, okay, if you need shoes, most likely we're going to have an event. I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence and communication, because communication, it's actually a commodity. A commodity which, it's very interesting that actually communication became a commodity in the past years. 20 years ago, it was not a commodity. It was not expensive to communicate, but it still carried a cost. Right now, it's almost free. So the problem is not right now how we communicate, it's what results we get from this communication process. And it's interesting that, speaking about results, there is a famous line, focus on results. But the problem is that that's easy to say. Results are the result of actions. Actions are the result of decisions. And decisions are the result of communication. OK, so basically, everything we do, it's communication. It really does not matter how large you have a team, or, I don't know, maybe if you are doing something or another thing. What really matters is how you are able to build up on this communication in order to get to the right results. And artificial intelligence is very interesting because right now it's the right timing to help this foundation. We have actually been doing real-time communication for a long time. And real-time communication is actually a small part of communication. So we have communication, we have electronic communication, we have real-time electronic communication. And in real-time communication, we have different real-time voice, real-time messaging. So there are different types of channels. So basically, I guess you most likely don't remember this, but you saw it on TV. Not even this. Fortunately, not this. But right now, when we talk about the communication process, everyone is referring to real time as an option. So basically, as I've told you, real-time messaging is just a part of it. But why we should be really excited, it's not about OTT and 100 billion, 200 billion, eroding the service providers, the carrier market. I think that's more interesting to understand is that right now is a transition from stuff like email. Email is going to survive, it's not going to die, that's unarguable, it's going to stay. But it's going to migrate in a lot of ways to real-time messaging. Because real-time messaging is much more interesting from the business perspective. First, think about payload. When you have an email, what you can do is like write text and maybe attach some files. Of course, there are some standards which are able to put some other payload, like an invitation, an event, or something like this, which is usually attached as a file. But it's very, very unflexible from the perspective of the payload. With real-time messaging, you can actually have any payload you want. They're bytes. So with extremely low latency, which is like, for example, we have right now under 100 milliseconds on the core level latency, you can transfer a message from the entrance to the output. Of course, there is a network latency, but this is the latency you can expect from the process which is doing routing. Routing is also interesting. When you have such kind of messages, you can perfectly automate. So most people are thinking right now, okay, we have WhatsApp or Facebook, this is what messaging can do. No, messaging can do for businesses much more than this. It can interconnect bots, and I'm going to talk about Internet of Bots, which is kind of different than Internet of Things. It's like a thing with artificial intelligence backend, which is able to do much more. So basically, we can communicate with people, we can communicate with devices. Devices can communicate between them, which is very important. We can route, we can use artificial intelligence in order to use natural language. So basically, if a person is communicating with a device, it's using natural language. You know Amazon Alexa, of course. Amazon Alexa is using voice. But we can do the same thing with messaging. And with messaging is even more interesting, and I'll show you why. Well, this is very short comparison. Real-time messaging versus email. So you see the payload, I've told you, the delivery confirmation. Just imagine what's happening when you want to see if someone actually read your email. There is no guarantee. With messaging, you can see that message has been seen. That's another message, actually, that is sent to the sender. You have a lot of emotion in real-time messaging. You know this. It's not new, but that's very important. And I'll show you why artificial intelligence is interesting, because this emotion can be used on the benefit of the business. You can have multiple recipients. You can actually play with these recipients very easily. You have bots. Just think about it. What kind of automation do you have with emails? You have a program that is sending you an email if something happens. That's not really automation. Can you discuss with that one? Most likely you can, but it's going to be very, very strange. So it's not a common use case. And also what's interesting is that real-time messaging grows much, much faster than email. Just look at these statistics, which are actually most likely not extremely accurate. You see that email is kind of not growing. Instant messaging is growing. And this statistic doesn't make any difference between business and, because it's very hard. You can use actually software which has not been designed for business purposes, and same way around, which is not exactly too nice, because on the enterprise real-time messaging there are kind of different requirements. First, and what's very important to understand is that right now there is no single study which have been conducted which explains what's happening with a company when it's switching completely to real-time messaging. There are a lot of implications. First, you might have noticed the real-time looks a little bit more stressful. So basically, you receive a message, you know that you cannot answer, and you shouldn't answer, but you answer. After 1 minute, you receive another message. It's the same story, and so on. With emails, you kind of can ignore them. That wouldn't be much of a problem. It's going to the inbox, and that's it. I'm going to answer them in the evening. So it's known that frequent interruptions are bad for productivity. That's for sure. And real-time messaging actually helps with these interruptions, like interrupting you a lot. There's also the emotional, when you have an email, the amount of emotion which is carried by the email is not really so great. It's like you can stay a little bit, relax and answer tomorrow. That wouldn't be a problem. But with instant messaging, you kind of try to push it. It's like you answer emotionally, you answer immediately. What's happening in a business environment, something like this? Okay, in a team, maybe that wouldn't be such a problem, but if you are talking with customers, bad luck. So it's a mix of formal and informal communication, which is kind of interesting, because we should understand what's happening, and artificial intelligence actually helping us just to understand the entire movement of communication in a company, and not only in a company, but also in communication with customers, and also to understand what should be done in order to improve such kind of thing. So basically, I'm going to show you just a short example. This is actually business communication. Does it look like? Most likely it doesn't. But it's a common thread in a company. People are talking like this. Of course, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. When I implemented last year emojis, like a complete emoji with 2,000 figures and stuff like this, in something like 2 or 3 days after we released the version of HubGet with emojis, we got a very interesting story, which was like, I want translations for emojis. Because there are some people who actually got some emojis, and they didn't know what the other person was telling them. So, and they wanted to go, just put the mouse over and to write them the translation. Well, actually, this is a generation conflict. Because younger people don't have any problem to talk with emojis. Older people, it's a little bit more complicated. But with GIFs, it's much more interesting. It's much more easier. You can understand very easily what's happening there. So, going to artificial intelligence on a team level, I'm going to tell you some very interesting use cases we discovered and we implemented. How we can make artificial intelligence the perfect assistant. Because people, right now are switches. Like they get a communication channel, they output another one, and they make decisions, a lot of decisions. With instant messaging, they should actually make a decision every message. That's overkill. But with artificial intelligence, we can look at the message and actually route it automatically, disturb the person, so the recipient, only if it's needed. That's interesting, because just think about it. When you have like a very basic notification system, the notification system is like on-off, schedule-based, and that's it. But you can say, okay, disturb me only if this is important. Okay, who says it's important? Well, actually, an artificial intelligence layer can tell this very easily. Another use case is like, for example, you are away for several days or maybe one day and a lot of things have been discussed. There is no problem to get a resume. So basically, you don't have to check everything, what's happening, what happened, just to stay updated with everything. You have them there resumed, very easy. And also, which is interesting, it's a mood detector. The mood detector, actually, you can see on our booth. We have a demonstration which is using bots, hardware bots. And we get a Twitter account. You can communicate with a bot. And the Twitter account is analyzed, and it will be able to score that account based on the mood of the person who is posting, which is positive, neutral, very positive. It's like 5 scale. Actually, it's a score, but it's classified in 5 different categories. And why is this mood important? Well, just think about it. You have someone who is answering requests from customers, requests on instant messaging. That's great. But what if he's in a really bad mood? Just think about it, if he's answering extremely emotionally when he shouldn't. Well, that's easy to detect. It's also interesting in a company because you can analyze the conversation between you and other people, and it's very objective for you to understand, okay, what I'm doing wrong here. If I'm not having a proper communication with someone, artificial intelligence can tell you. If the boss is telling you, maybe it's not so good because everything we do here, what is interesting, it's not like, because there is a lot of association between machine learning and like privacy and stuff like this. Everything is private. So what we read, actually you can install HubGets in your own infrastructure if you want. This shouldn't be a problem. Everything that we read, it's like it's your information. It's going to be revealed for your boss. There is no someone else who is going to see this. We have just indicators to help you just perform better. Because it's interesting that you should go to better results by using such kind of layer. And that's only, for the people in the company, but also about management. That's a continuous feedback engine. You don't need surveys. You don't need to ask people, what do you think about that? What do you think about this? Because such kind of things are discussed. And there is someone who can tell, okay, that wouldn't be nice to read. The change management is much easier because you can understand as a manager, how I can do things better in order to optimize the entire process. So understanding team dynamics in real time, it's very important and very easy. I would say, like, maybe a coach is like a little bit, exaggerated right now, but it will become in the next 5 years a real coach for management. Just to understand the team better, to understand customers better. And speaking about customers, I'll give you a short example. Just look at this. It's like a very normal, message, notification you're going to get on a stupid, or maybe not stupid, on a naive, blind, software that is, interesting to connect you to your customer. That IP address is your customer, and okay, you're going to connect with him. Hi, sir. Okay, you're visiting our pricing page. Are you interested in our pricing? What don't you understand about our pricing? Those are stupid questions, actually. What if you would get this? Okay, this lady, who is acquisition manager, executive level, short description about her, is visiting your page. And not only this lady has a particular style of communication. You should approach her in a certain way, because when you get the social accounts, you can analyze this very easily. Again, you can come to our booth, and we are going to show you for any account you want. So this is no, violation of privacy, or again, it's public information. Public information that you can get, analyze it in real time very easily. Also, very interesting about the customer interaction use case is that you can serve customers much easier, and the team is going to be much more satisfied about it, because serving customers, it's a repetitive job. It's very boring. And because it's very boring, people tend to do it for several months, and that's it. They want to move, a little bit up, or just to do some different types of customers, because it's boring, that's it. But with bots, actually it's much easier, because the bot is going to come, and it can take parts of the conversations for you. You can even suggest some answers. For example, if a specialized question is asked, like now is escalated to another department and the real-time magic is stopped. Okay, sir, we are going to contact you in the next 48 hours, and we are going to tell you, the answer to your question, but that's not necessary. A bot can suggest the answer. And also very important, right now in this customer interaction, we rate everything by quantity. Okay, how fast, how many answers, how many requests, but it's not necessarily about quantity, it's about quality. With artificial intelligence, you can actually rate the quality of the communication process. So you can understand very easily what's happening in threads. If you want to analyze this, and if you want to get some metrics about it, that's easy. Well, on a service provider level, when you're thinking about artificial intelligence, it's often a common question. Is going to be artificial intelligence intrusive for me as a company or as a person? No, because it's actually, even right now you have the data. The data is there, but the data is not useful. The data is growing, it's taking bytes. No, you should use the data to make your business better. So basically, AI is not intrusive, but it's disruptive. And if you don't embrace it early, as a service provider, there is a lot of risk that someone else is going to do it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this risk with another interesting application, which is Internet of Bots. I think that, all of you heard about Internet of Things. It's very much spoken, no much action about it. It's still hobby. Okay, there are some interesting applications, but not as many as people, were forecasting 5 years ago. But with bots, you can transform actually a thing in something intelligent, someone who is able to interact with you. We actually have a model where we built a low-power device, very cheap, is less than $10. So less than $10, which can be deployed anywhere, like in office environment, in commercial environment. I'm going to tell you some interesting applications. For example, in an office environment, maybe you want a bot who is able to tell you the quality of the air. Okay, it's communicating with real-time messaging. It's using the cloud backend. It's sending the messages, and the cloud backend is going to convert them to natural language. So you can interact with such kind of bots. You can move applications. It's a self-contained application. You can move from one of such devices to another one without any problem, just from the interface. And even more interesting, these bots can communicate between them. So you don't need like different APIs. You know that right now in industry, for example, there are a lot of protocols just in order to allow robots, for example, to communicate between them. That's not okay. They are going to be used as well. But if you want to provide a common interface, the message is a perfect one because it's low latency. You have a cloud backend which is able to convert between them. So basically, you can have a crowd of bots, all of them communicating together. Just think about 5Gs. 5G is going to be available in several years, and the technology promises that you are going to have a lot of devices which we can deploy without any problem. Okay, but what are these devices going to run? Just think about the security problem we have right now with such kind of devices. With such kind of approach where the bot is smart, it's cheap, it's hardware, it's not useful on its own, it's just using the cloud. That's the idea. Just come to our booth. We have a bot, which actually built in less than 1 week for this purpose, which is able to use the mood layer, and it shows the mood on the screen. It's a normal application. Of course, you wouldn't do such kind of thing in a company, but just for demo purposes, come and play with it. Regarding HubGets, all these things I've told you about, some of them are available with HubGets, others are going to be available soon. We are going to make available also the application layer for bots. So when we are putting it open source, so if you want to run your own hardware bot, you'll be to be able to do it. If you want to deploy it in your network, you're going to just plug sensors, and that's it. What can I tell you more about the service provider opportunities? There are so many opportunities, it's even hard to tell you about them. So I think that you should do it, because if you don't do it, someone else is going to do it for sure. And if you have data, especially right now, you should use artificial intelligence to make it better. Because right now, it's stored somewhere, it's not used as an experience, it's there, you store it, but again, not useful for the company. Thank you very much. And we're waiting for you at our booth just to play, and we are going to explain much more about this. Thank you.